Welcome, everyone, to another Meaningful Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Singinlisa. It is so exciting to have you here as we continue celebrating women and all of the phenomenal work that they do as they contribute to their community and, of course, to the world. You know, there is no other person that has more to do than a mom. And we're going to meet someone very special today. Her name is Brieanna Lightfoot Smith. She is a coach for mompreneurs, and she's a brand strategist. Now, she was prompted by the Holy Spirit to transform her business, her passion for affirming and encouraging teenage girls into 4 published books. That's right. The Spirit can move. And then she turned those books into a curriculum-based program. Well, that program became the foundation for her coaching business and digital product library. And now she's excited about helping other women get paid for their passion. Keyword, paid. And that is exciting. So, of course, we say welcome to you, Bree, because we love the fact that you are Brands by Bree. So we got to call you Bree, right?
Yes, that's perfectly fine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is a pleasure. And I'm just excited to say that you are here because I've been watching like everyone in the audience from the stands and just being a fan and excited about what God's doing in your life. And I'm excited to say also that we go back to child number 1.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, when I was on her radio show all those years ago, I had 1 son and now I have 3.
Yeah.
And that one son is going to be 7 this year.
Oh my
So that's
goodness.
crazy.
All right. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, just thinking back on how things were when you were basically just out of college for a few years and sort of finding your way and following what you felt like the Lord was leading you to do, which he was, because one stepping stone definitely leads to the next. And you always find out, you know, how those all connect, right? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, you were a part of a great experience that I have every year where I get to work with individuals that are young teens, and we call them queens. And so, of course, our Queens organization, which is still going strong, was really able to really catapult them and show them the way to go. And so you were such a positive part of their experience because you were able to come in and speak to them and let them see a mom expecting and how you can even then follow your passion. And so why don't you speak to those early days and then how we transitioned into where we are?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because as I've been gearing up for the launch of our newest program, the Profitable Products Program, I was going through my archives of photos that I had, right, of me doing speaking engagements and book signings, and I came across that photo with the teen girls with queens, and I was just looking, I'm like, man, I was very pregnant at the time. Very, very pregnant. I think I was like only a couple months out from being due. And I remember just thinking about the fact that God really, without even doing it like so overtly, he just spoke to the insecurities and the fears that I had around becoming a mom, and that being like, all right, well, hope you had fun. Hope you lived out your purpose, because now you're going to go into motherhood land where people may not know, who you are anymore. And, I hope you've done your due diligence in the things that you want to do, because this is kind of it. And it's even recently I was having a conversation with God, and I was just like, man, God, so many of the things that I've done that I'm proudest of have been since being a mom. The speaking engagements, even my very first book signing at a bookstore, I was pregnant with Jaden then, and I didn't know it yet, but I was pregnant with them. And I thought that was so funny. I'm like, girl, you've always been a mom building a business and raising your babies. And so I think that to see the journey from 1 son to 3, from 1 book to 4, from 1 business to now a business and a nonprofit myself, like it's just been interesting to see how so much of the stuff is interconnected and how so much of it really is rooted in, you know, my desire to affirm women in their God-given identities, to let them know how important it is for them to walk in their purpose and operate in their talents and gifts. And I think that even with this newest program, I wrestled with it just for a second because I was like, God, am I really about to be out here telling people how to create products? And he was like, that's not what this is about. And I'm like, it's literally called Profitable Products. How is it not about that? But he was showing me, he's like, this is about, one, women turning things that they're passionate about into something else and not just assuming, oh, well, because I love it, I have to do it for free. Which is something that I've been guilty of in the past. But also, he's like, this is about them being able to achieve the financial freedom and the time freedom, because I know firsthand being an entrepreneur has been so helpful in allowing me to feel like I'm making a contribution to society outside of motherhood. And also allowing me to operate in my gifts, because when a woman is fulfilled, like it impacts her family, it impacts her children. And I think that so many women have kind of adopted what I've been calling a martyr spirit when it comes to motherhood, of like, all right, well, my dreams have to wait, or I have to put these things on the side. And we do have to navigate differently. I'm not saying you can just be out here in the same way as a single person if you're married with kids, and like you do have to move differently. But it's something that my mom told me when I got pregnant with our oldest. She was like, nothing is off the table until you're dead. So if you're still breathing, baby girl, I think we can figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah, I love it. Kudos to mom. Moms have all the answers, just like you. And so, yeah, and it's just amazing to see, you know, what God has done. And you said a few words that were very key, like affirm, and really, you know, thinking, I think it's a myth that we feel like once motherhood kicks in, well, everything else is just off the table. It's done. You got to close that chapter, because if you didn't do it while you could have more time, then how could you possibly do it now? And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because you have walked those steps to finding out how it gets done. And you've been very transparent, which I love as well, because it really helps other women and other people when people have gone through something and that person decides to share. And I know that it takes a lot of courage to do that. But in the end, you're helping other people. And I do believe that you're becoming stronger yourself in realizing, well, wait, it's not just me. You know, there are other people who have similar issues, doesn't have to be exactly the same, but everybody's struggling with something or needing some answers or some steps or a guide just to, you know, get a little further ahead. And I think that's just been fantastic as I've watched you kind of navigate that. And so you've learned some things that obviously people are benefiting from. So yeah, you know, what nerve do you have, you know, naming something, what is it? Passion to profit?
Yeah, profitable products. Yeah.
Profitable products. There you go. So there is definitely a profit in there, and you know, more in more ways than just financially. I think the influence comes in knowledge, and it comes in wisdom, and it comes in experience, and I think probably now you can speak to the camaraderie and the fellowship that happens with other moms who say thank you.
Absolutely. And because they get on Zoom with their kids in the background, and I'm like, girl, it's fine. Mom was just over here. I just told them that they needed to sit down somewhere, and they actually listened. Crazy.
You got a good moment.
Right, exactly.
Well, I love that. So as you have gone from all of the first book to the fourth book, what was the motivation behind the first book, and how has it changed now that we're on book 4?
The first book was, you know, it was sparked by a conversation that I was having with one of the teenagers that I was serving back when I was living in New Orleans still, you know, working in teen ministry. And like one of the young ladies just said something that really marked me. And I remember thinking like, God, these girls are still struggling with the same stuff that I was struggling with when I was a teenager. And he was like, so what you gonna do about it? And I was like, that's your job, sir. And he was like, well, you should write a book, you know? And I'm like, okay, what's it gonna be called? Thinking that I'm being smart, I guess. And he was like, The Black Girl's Guide to Living on Purpose. And I said, and that is where you are incorrect, because that was in the very early stages of the Black Lives Matter movement. I wasn't trying to, I know that we as believers, I think that, you know, a lot of us are like, I don't want to get into politics. Like if this starts to look even close to like it's involving politics, I'm out, right? And so I felt like it was just going to be too political. I felt like it was going to be too radical. And I remember, and I actually write about this in the book, watching that viral video of the young girl who got dragged across the classroom by that security guard because she wouldn't surrender her phone. And I was infuriated by that because, one, that wasn't an appropriate response. Like, you're body slamming this girl. That is the way that people break up fights at bars, and she's in a classroom. But number two, it was just I felt like people just felt so justified in that. Like even the officer was like, I mean, yes, this is what I need. And I'm like, no. But I think that that also speaks to the lack of representation in a lot of schools. Like me going up to one of my girls and being like, now, you know, you don't need to be on your phone. Give me your phone. And it would be okay, Miss Bree, you right. I'm sorry. As opposed to however you're approaching the situation, and then it feels threatening, and then now you're body slamming me, and then you're proving my point of me not feeling safe in this environment because you just threw me across the room. And so I remember God really using that situation to like push me over the line and say, no, this is what the book is going to be called. Because even in the midst of me writing it, I was like, maybe I'll change the name right at the end. And I saw that and I was like, nope, this has to be it. Because God was like, I need them to know, y'all, my Black girls, I need y'all to know that I care about y'all specifically, not. And I hate, I don't know how you feel about this. I hate when people say that God doesn't see color, because I'm like, if he doesn't see color, then why are we different shades? Why aren't we all just purple if he doesn't see color? Why aren't we all just polka dot? If color doesn't matter, I said, I think the fact that God sees color is the reason why when scripture says, by this they will know you're my disciples, why it's so effective, because two people who wouldn't, you look at them and you're like, what do they have in common? You can't see anything from the outside, but it's an internal thing, right? I remember walking to, there's a older woman who she's probably in her 80s. She's this older Caucasian woman. And she brought me to the doctor a couple years ago. And people were really like, how do they know each other? Like, what? Oh, you guys are here together? They kept saying, oh, is this your mother-in-law? And I'm like, no. Is this they kept trying to figure out how we fit.
Yeah.
I was like, we're sisters in Christ. The people were just so like flabbergasted. And so that was the motivation for the first one. The second one I wrote was a workbook for the first one. The third one was a devotional. And then the fourth one was actually the same book, but for women, because women were buying the Black Girl's Guide to Living on Purpose. And I'd be like, oh, is this for your niece? Or is this for your cousin or your daughter? And they'd be like, it's for me. And I'm like, oh, and love that. Right. But in the first book, I talk about things like bullying, or I talk about dating. And so I wanted to create something that was specific to like, what does it look like to live out your purpose as a career woman, as a mom, right? Like, what does it look like in these different stages of life? And so whenever I came out with that one, it's funny because I feel like the pre-orders did better than even the first one, because women were like, yes, this is for me, child. I'm not getting this for nobody. They might have got it for a friend too, but they were getting it for themselves. I loved that they had something specifically for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see why they would get the first one, because you mentioned topics that are still relevant to adults, unfortunately, when it comes to bullying and comes to identity and things of those nature. We're still struggling with that as adults. We're still trying to figure out who we are. We're still dealing with people having an opinion as if it matters. And so we're responding because, we want people to like us. It literally is the same thing. We're just a little older. And so it's really kind of sad that we're dealing with some of the same issues, but it just speaks to the necessity of both books that really do help, you navigate as an adult because, well, no, we shouldn't be doing some of the more childish things, as the Bible says, we're adults now, so we're a man. So let's do things that we would as an adult. So you do have those two books that really, I think, work well together so that, they meet in harmony to allow people to really find where they fit in and how they can represent who they really want to be as adults, as women in business, as mothers, wives, and all the different titles that you have, that you carry. So I think that's fantastic. And of course they would buy it, and do the pre-sale. They saw the first one. So that's wonderful. Now, you at one point, I don't know, in between which child, you spoke sometimes about, I guess, the decision-making process that you wrestled with maybe stopping or quitting or doing something different because in your mind, maybe it didn't seem possible. So can you share how you navigated through that? Because those were really tough times when you had to sort of really go in deep with God to find a way out to make it work.
Yes, that was ironically was 2021, which was when I opened my business back up. But I remember this specific Facebook post that I wrote, and I said that I felt like when I gave birth to our son, a part of me died. And I felt like I spent so much time trying to get her back that it was taking away the time from learning this new version of me, right? And, I am someone who, especially the more children we've had, because again, now we have 3, I've learned that it's not about trying to get back to your old self. It's really embracing whoever this present version of you is, and your children play a part in that. And I know, there is a grieving process, of course, of I used to do things this way. Now I have to do them this way. I used to be able to jump up and go to eat, right? Like our boys go to Chicago for the summer, and that month that they're gone, me and my husband be like, oh my gosh, we just went from laying down to being at this restaurant in like 15 minutes. Like that would never happen if they were,
Right.
But so there are real dynamic shifts that occur.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that sometimes we romanticize past versions of ourselves as well, because I remember realizing like, man, I'm so much more patient than I was, I'm so much more intentional with my words than I was. I remember being afraid that I wasn't nurturing enough to be a mom. Like that was something I told my sister. I was like, you're the nurturing one. I don't know. Like God had somehow misplaced the baby. Oh wait, no, he wasn't supposed to be you. He was supposed to be your sister. No, he knows what he's doing, right? And I remember God just affirming me and telling me, you are the mom your children need. Mm-hmm. Like you think in your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to be cuddly and I need to be this and I need to be that. And he's like, no, they actually gonna need someone who's a little buck. Like they need, especially with these boys, like they need someone who can be very frank with them. And I'm caring, I am. And I would even say I'm nurturing, but it's just not in the way that I pictured nurturing, right? Like I'm really intentional and I love the conversations. I mean, this podcast called The Meaningful Conversations. Like I love the conversations that I have with my children, and I love the way that they think, and I love the way that they are able to express how they feel, even when they're frustrated with something that I've done, right? When they're like, I don't like when you do that, mommy. And I'll go, thank you for letting me know. Even if I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for informing me that you did not like the way that I handled that. I did not like that you did this, and we can go back and forth. And these are 3, 5, and 6-year-olds, right? Like, and I still remember years ago when we first moved to Texas, we stayed with my parents for a while we were figuring out like, okay, do we want to rent? We want to buy? What part of town do we want to live in? And my oldest was 18 months. And I was sitting in the kitchen talking to him, and I just hear my mom laugh from the other room. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? She was like, girl, that boy don't know what you're talking about. Like, because I was just talking to him the same way I'm talking to you, right? And I said, yes, he does. And I said, and if he doesn't know, he'll figure it out, right? And then it was about a year later, and he said something to her, and she was like, he really knew what you were talking about back then. And I was like, I know. Like, I would talk to my 2-year-old about integrity, doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Like, and so the fact that I think I've been able to define what motherhood looks like for me, I think spoke to, like, it made that grieving process easier, because I realized, oh, wait, this isn't like grief. This is reinvention. This is reimagination. Like, what is Brieanna as the business owner and the mom look like? What does Brieanna as the mom of 2 look like? What does Brieanna as the mom of 3 look like, right? Like, what does it look like for me to go from having a company where I primarily did websites and social media to now I have a company where I'm coaching women? Like, what does that version of me look like? And as I've given myself the space to evolve, it really feels like what scripture says in Matthew, like, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. It just feels like I've been entering into God's rest, because I'm not trying to package something up in a way that's inauthentic, or in a way that's forced, or in a way that's even on like a super fixed timeline of like, okay, I need to get in, I need to do this by this time, because baby, if children and back-to-back pregnancies have taught me nothing else, they've taught me the art of surrender. So I'm like, listen, that sounds cute. Talk to me in a few months and we'll see, right?
Absolutely. I love that. Well, I love that you mentioned the word grieving, because, most would think of grieving only in death, and the traditional death, that we know that we all must face one day. But then when you speak about, yes, but I'm still here, but I'm talking about the part of me that is not able to thrive and, live anymore. So, I have to grieve that part. And I do believe that's a legitimate word for a legitimate situation and transition of life from growing. And a lot of times that is not really experienced well. I don't think the grieving is done well for enough women, so that they can actually understand that it's okay that you're not who you used to be, because you're discovering, as you said, who you will become. If we don't realize that there is something good to look forward to, then we regret and mourn probably longer than we need to, the fact that, that other person is gone, but I liked her, we had fun, we were free.
Right.
It's all a part of the vernacular. It's just like, oh my goodness, and then I think a lot of parents, missed that transition. So you see the clashing of, watch my kid, I need to go because I still want to go and do this and have fun and do that.
Me being in New Orleans, I saw that firsthand. I remember one of my girls, because I was working in a school, having to quit the team because her mom had like stuff she needed to do after work, and it wasn't like critical stuff. I was like, this is an hour of cheerleading practice, but you're making her come home so she can watch her brother, so you can go and do what? Like, that was so frustrating to me. And I saw so many of my kids in New Orleans have to grow up faster because their parents weren't willing to grow up. And then it really kind of creates a cycle, because now when they get older, now they're going to be circling the block like, okay, I spent my childhood looking up for my siblings and looking out for my siblings. So now it's your turn. You're going to look out for your siblings, and I'm going to go do what I want to do. That's so hard. So hard.
It really is. And it's so sad not realizing the honor that it is to be a mother, to be a parent, to change a life that, however the child, came. For many, it might have been a surprise. It might not have been, it might not have been wanted at the time, but the fact that the child is here means that now you have responsibility. So you got to figure it out and get the support you need so that you do the best that you can with raising that child to be a productive, citizen, a sane human, so that they're able to make, choices that maybe you couldn't make. And I recently saw something that broke my heart. I really stared at the screen because I couldn't believe that it was real. And it was literally a mother bringing her 3 children to her mother and telling her, I'm leaving. So we're waiting on what's the rest of this. but it was unfortunately, and people may start seeing this on, in videos, but there was a man that she met. She said she was tired of being a single mother. And she literally, I think the shock for everybody was, wait, she's the mother, the conversation she was having. She's leaving. Not, I need some time. I'm coming back. You raised them. I'm done. And that was mind blowing, but it also speaks to not having the equipment, the resources to really figure out how to make your way through this, how to navigate it. Of course, there's postpartum syndrome. When you have a baby, there's legitimate reasons when parents go through that really difficult time of depression and figuring out what in the world am I supposed to do. So that's legitimate, but to give up like that was so heartbreaking, and I do pray that she gets, the help that she needs to give up that way. And then what the children were doing was getting in and out of the car. So what are they thinking? Unbelievable. But thankfully we have people like yourself with that, story of, listen, we got to be resilient. We can make it. That was me, but not anymore, so she's on and here I am. So what do you speak to? What types of encounters are you having when you're meeting these mothers that are overwhelmed and saying, how is this possible to have a business and be a mom?
I think one of the things I try to focus on with my moms is the systems, right? And sometimes that's support systems, sometimes it's a software system, right? But like, what are the systems and structures that are in place? Because typically, and I heard this quote in a book and it made so much sense to me, it says, where there's stress, there's not structure. Right? Like if there's stress, there's not, and they actually set a standard, but I have since changed it to, it's really structured to me, right? So where there's stress, there's not a standard. So I say, okay, where there's stress, there's not structure. And so typically, it's kind of like my motherhood style. Like it's tough love with me and my clients, because if they tell me they don't have time for stuff, I'm gonna push back on that. I'm like, let's see, what are we really spending our time on, right? There's this training I have that I have my moms go through called the energy audit, and I have them assess what things they're doing, what they would rather do instead, what things that they have on their list that can be delegated, and what can be dismissed. Like, what things have you put on your to-do list? They don't even need to be, they don't need to be done by you. They don't need to be done, period. But they're just here. And you just keep rolling them on to next week's to-do list. They never get done. And so they're taking up this mental real estate, and you're like, well, this is why I can't start a business right now, because who said you have to do that? Based off of what, And so that's typically the conversation that I'm having with a lot of women before they start working with me. It's like, oh girl, I don't have the time. Girl, I don't know how to find the time. And I remember one woman in particular, she went through the energy audit and she was like, Bree, she said, I'm over here talking about I don't have time to start a business. I spend at least 2 hours a day watching TV. She said, if I would just take 30 minutes of that, and I love that she didn't say, I'm going to stop watching TV and I'm going to devote. Baby, let's be real. You're probably not going to stop watching TV. Okay? But you probably going to leave it up. Okay. But she said, if I took 30 minutes from that every day, now I've got over 2 hours that I'm spending per week working on this business idea that I say I want. And I think that's another part of it, is people don't really know what they want. So they're like, oh, or what they're willing to exchange to get what they want. There's going to be a trade-off. So, okay, people are like, oh, I want to get in shape. What are you willing to give up for that? Are you willing to give up your Wingstop Wednesdays? Listen, because they be 25 cents, right? So they used to be, thankfully they're not as good as they used to be, because they would have had me in the chokehold. I'd be over there for 25-cent Wednesdays, right? Are you willing to give up the 30 minutes of extra sleep you get in the morning that you actually don't need the extra sleep, but you're like, oh, it's cozy and da-da-da-da, just to move your body for 30 minutes. I'm not even saying get a gym membership. They have so many fantastic YouTube girls that I have followed over the years that have kept me in shape, right? Like, are you willing to give up the extra time you spend scrolling on social media to actually start creating your own content?
Okay.
Like, wow, what does it look like to shift from a consumer to a creator? And I think a lot of people aren't willing to ask themselves those questions. And I think it's a compilation of things, but it's really easy. It's just much easier to blame our circumstances than to take ownership and say, oh, if I really want to make this happen, I can make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've never, everything I've invested in my business, in my marriage, in my parenting, it's required some level of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are not willing to make a sacrifice, I'm like, okay, then what do you really want? Like, even with this profitable products program, I had a lot of conversations with people, and the people who wanted to be in the program, it was very minimal. Like, it wasn't like, okay. And they went, the people who it still didn't end up signing up, we're going back and forth. I'm like, okay, is it the payment plan? Do you want me to do that? And they're like, yeah, let's try that. And it still ended up not being the thing. The people who said yes, it was like, maybe they had a couple extra questions just for clarification. And they're like, okay, I'm in. And that's it. But it was a decision. Mm-hmm. And they had clarity that they wanted to do something different, that they wanted to create a product based off of something that they had in their mind, and a lot of the women who are in this program actually have service-based businesses, and they're like, hey, I want to expand my suite of offerings so that I'm not always having to be at the event and I can still generate income in my business, right? Or, I'm the mental health therapist, right? Like, she's like, okay, yes, I want to see my clients, but also just get this shirt that has affirmations on it. I'm happy for you to just get that. And that we didn't have to spend any time on Zoom, right? And so I just feel like for them, it was an easy yes, because they had that clarity of understanding how they wanted the program to work for them. And while other people gave different reasons, I really feel like the desire wasn't fully there yet, because again, I've signed up for programs without having to do any kind of clarity calls or like, okay, yeah, we're doing open house, baby. I don't need that. I've told people, I'm like, you don't have to pitch me. I've sold myself. So I just need the link to buy, Right. And so I love being able to give women that kind of confidence in their decision making. And I tell people as well, even working with me as a coach, I'm giving you the plays, but you still have to run them. And people, when they walk away from working with me, the two things that they say that they always get: clarity and confidence.
I love it.
And that's my goal. Like, I want you to be clear on what you want, and I want you to be confident enough to actually go after it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're teaching everybody really how to fish so that they can fish for themselves and feed themselves and, catch bigger fish. But you lay the groundwork and give them that template, so to speak, so that they can actually get it done. And so all of the women basically producing some type of product out of your coaching, journey with them?
With this newest program, yes, everyone's creating a product, whether it's a physical product or a digital product. One of the ladies has decided on a devotional, which is really, really exciting. She's blogged for the last 2 years, and so she's going to take those blog posts and kind of transform them into a devotional. As someone who has written a devotional, obviously I'm extremely biased and very excited about that particular project, because I loved the devotional, because it was like, I can pick a scripture and speak about that scripture, and I don't have to be like, but how does this connect with the chapter before? You know what I mean? And then with one of the women, the mental health specialist, she, like I said, she has an apparel line and mugs, and she has these pillows that have, an emotion wheel, but then like scriptures that counteract those emotions and things like that. And so it's just really cool to see them. The analogy that I give as far as products are concerned is like seeing them plant these trees, because there are all these other branches, right? Like, me and you are connected because I had a product. Like, I had a book. You interviewed me about the book, because then I did my conference, right? Did my conference. And then from there, ended up being able to come and speak to your girls. And so it was this one thing that had this ripple effect. And that's what I've tried to tell people as well. I'm like, even if you're like, oh no, I don't really see myself with I'm like, you probably got a couple ideas that you could run with. And another way that I've communicated it is it's like being able to do market research that you're getting paid for,
Mm.
because you're able to assess how interested are people in this, right? Like, and if they're interested in this, would they be interested in a sequel if it's a book, right? Or would they be interested in, coaching services if this is like kind of a how-to guide?
Mm-hmm.
Now we can maybe upsell them into a coaching program. Like, what it gives you the opportunity to explore, but also while being paid. Because listen, nobody out here, unless you are a research analyst, right, data guru or something like that, not a lot of people out here getting paid to just do research.
That's so true. So true. Not without a lot of years put into it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love that. Well, I know that they must be really excited to be in your program and to really find out and discover some things about themselves that they just didn't know how to really pull out. So some people know that there's something there, but I think one of the things you do that I've shared before with another guest is that it's important, as she says, not to be a gatekeeper, to actually be the one who is helping someone else to realize their dream and realize the potential that they have. Because in that, when you release what you have to help someone else, then you actually gain more because you're getting more experience, you're meeting more people, the networking increases, and the circle gets bigger, and there's more room, obviously, for more, because everybody has something special and unique that they've been gifted with, by our creator. So I love the fact that you share that, with them and make it very, realistic and easygoing, and not like we got to climb we got to go to the Alps for this one. So everyone, we're speaking with Bree, and of course you can see that she is beautiful. She is a mompreneur, and she is giving us all of the tea, as they say these days, with business ideas and how she's doing it all with a mom. And let me add to that you also homeschool. Good gracious.
I know, child. Listen.
You just went for it all.
I did. That era is coming to an end. Spoiler alert. Just because these boys, they get bigger and they are, I'm like, you know what, brother? Think I'm taking you as far as I can take you, at least for this season. Like, and it's so funny because talking about that grieving again, at one point I was like, oh my gosh, Lord. How am I, like, have I failed? And you know what the scripture he gave me? He gave me the scripture where the disciples were telling him they didn't want him to leave. And he said, if I don't leave, then the helper won't come. And what I felt like he was telling me in that moment, he's like, listen, you have instilled godly values into your children. And like, now they get to share that with somebody else, and they actually get to rely on me as they're in school and doing these different things and having these different interactions. They're not just your default. And the goals that I had for homeschooling were to set a Bible foundation, because we Jesus over here. And to also really foster a level of closeness amongst my sons. Like, I wanted them to be close with one another. I didn't want them to get into that thing, where you see kids and they're in school and they don't claim their siblings between the hours of 9 and 3. And then afterwards, y'all just happen to get in the same car and go home together. And I'm like, no, y'all need to rep for each other, And so I'm like, okay, because this was a decision I prayed on for a year. And I felt like God just kept being like, well, what was the goal? And I kind of ran down the goals to myself, and I was like, well, if that was the goal, you established the goal, And I think it wasn't just for them, it was for me, seeing it from God. Like, I had to change the way I operated. And I tell people all the time, being a mother has kept me from being a workaholic. Because I have to pause, because these children want their snacks and they do not care if I have a Zoom call, or, they want to go outside. We got to get them their vitamin D. We got to get them active in things. And so I'm so grateful for that, because I think that those are the parts of parenting And don't get me wrong, you can go to the extreme where now you're a slave to your kids' schedules. We're not doing that over here.
Right.
But there's this level of delight that you get to experience too, of like, ooh, we're going to Chuck E. Cheese. Oh, we're going to go skating. Like, you get to have fun, it should be fun. Like, parts of parenting should be fun. I understand having to get them another pair of shoes after they just got that one. You like, how did you already outgrow that? My son grew 2 pant sizes over a summer last year. I was like, we just got these. And then his brother had the nerve to grow too. So it wasn't like, okay, we'll just give these to your brother. No.
We can't even pass it down. Like,
we gotta wait 3 years for Joshua. Like,
amazing. It's those moments that make it all worth it. You have them as memories. You have, those moments when they can look back and say, I remember when I did that, or I remember when I learned that. And that is so key. And I'm so glad that was really pivotal for you and very important that they would know one another, because relationship between siblings especially is so critical and necessary. Especially they got to look out for each other in this world, right? And you already have the foundation. And so now we're talking about moms and all that moms do, but one thing that you have is a strong, handsome husband.
I do.
I know that that's your support system. So if you want to brag on it for a minute,
yes,
balances out.
Yes, the thing I love, and I talk to some of my mentees and little sisters in the faith who are either still waiting to be married or kind of early on in their marriage. I think the thing I love so much about the relationship that I have with my husband is that we really have grown up together. I met him at 18, which sounds nuts. We didn't date until I was in my 20s, but I met him my freshman year of college. And to see hints of the things we're doing now, even back in our college days and early in our marriage, and just to see them like come to fruition. Like I said, when we got married, I had just written my book, and it was kind of like, okay, I wrote it, but didn't know all the stuff that would come from that, right? And I remember I did a 4-week workshop series at the recreation center by our house. And he came and took my pictures and, just was there for support, bringing in my books with me if people needed to get a copy. And I think that the thing I'm always just very conscious of is building something together. And it's been the same thing on his side, right? Like, he has an apparel business that he's started since we've been married. And I remember getting his website set up and, being like, oh, baby, I think you should, maybe you should consider like bulk orders instead of drop shipping, because you would have, a higher profit margin. And him being like, I don't want no inventory, and seeing him now having inventory and his profit margins being larger. And I'm like, look, it's happening, And even going further back than that, though, remembering talking to him one day and him being like, I would never sell my art. Like, it wouldn't be the same if people are paying me. And I'm like, I think it would actually be better. I don't know. That's just, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but you got to come to that conclusion on your own, right? And I remember him one day being like, yeah, I'm thinking about selling. And I was like,
where'd you hear that from?
Exactly, because it's never us. It's always somebody else that introduced the idea. But I just be like, well, Lord, thank you for bringing it through an anointed messenger, because listen, some plant, right? Some water, only the Holy Spirit can bring the increase. I'm like, okay, thank you for whoever came and watered this seed. And so I think that, again, for both of us, especially having children as early as we did in our marriage, having children really young, having children back to back, like, there's just such an appreciation that I have for where we are in our marriage, where our children are healthy and well, and not just from a physical health, right? But like, their minds are strong and they have strong relationships. And then we're also doing well. It wasn't like we had to sacrifice our assignments in order for them to do well. And I think that that's what we feel like. It's like, okay, this gets put on the back burner until our child turns 18, or, so maybe you bring it closer, maybe like until they stop breastfeeding, until they go to school, until they, and the thing is, life is so unpredictable. And who's to say you're going to be in a position to do the thing you're saying you want to do 3 years from now, 7 years from now? Who's to say you're going to have the support system that you have now in several years, right? Like, and so I'm so grateful to him. I'm grateful to my parents. They've been so supportive always. I'm grateful to our church family, because I got so many church aunties that will watch our boys.
Yeah.
On the last minute if I need it. And I don't take any of that for granted. And that's why when things like the Rising Entrepreneur of the Year award happen, or me getting into the Goldman Sachs program, or, me launching new offers inside, like, it's never I don't believe in a self-made anything. Believe in a self-made millionaire. I don't believe in a self-made entrepreneur, because I'm like, somebody helped you at some point. I don't care if they read over the email, right? If they check your website for error, I don't care. Somebody helped you at some point.
Yeah.
And so I'm just very conscious of that, and I'm very grateful for that. And, my prayer with God is always like, Lord, I want us to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor together, because we were both there when it wasn't looking like nothing. When it was looking like so which one of us is gonna get a third job?
Yeah, you are saying so much that I know somebody is resonating with, because not only are you telling me that from nothing came now 2 businesses, we have, a marriage, you have a household that's a 2-business household, 3 children. Not to mention, you've got family, you've got a church family, you've got a system, and you've got a network. And I mean, you really are painting a picture that really speaks to the necessity of community and the necessity of having support and having people who do help you. And I believe that was a Wilma Rudolph quote that spoke about, no matter where you end up in life or how you got there, somebody helped you along the way. And it's so, so critical, everything that you're saying. And then you spoke to something that I definitely wanted to pivot to, because you, in your quest to, rise to the next level, were seeking opportunity through programs and through opportunities to throw pitches. And I would read where you say, well, I didn't get this one, but man, the experience was great. And then all of a sudden you say, wait a minute, they called my name.
Girl.
What was that feeling like? Because my goodness, you won. And tell us about that.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional just because what you said, like, people see the wins, but they don't see the losses. And I'm very intentional about sharing my losses, because to me, the thing I tell my clients, there's no losses, there's just lessons. So for every pitch competition that I've applied for, competed in, where I didn't take the win home, I'm like, okay, how could that have been better? For the people who did win, what did I notice? What are some common trends that they had, And then there's stuff that just feels like the unmerited favor of God, where you like, me?
Right.
Like the Goldman Sachs program, the round that I got in, there were over 1,500 applicants. They only accepted 150 people.
Okay. And for people that don't know what the Goldman Sachs program is.
Yes, the Goldman Sachs, so they have a couple of programs. They have a program called Black in Business, which is a program for Black female entrepreneurs who are solo founders, who have generated at least $28,000 in their business. They ask you for your profit and loss statement, so you can't just be putting no random numbers in there, right? But it's an accelerator program that happens over the course of 4 months. You go in person to New York. They do this amazing orientation, and then you have online training for 10 weeks, and then you come up to New York for graduation. And I just remember being in that room and being like, and they kept saying, which was so helpful, they were like, stop asking. And they're just saying this to the room.
Yeah.
Because other people were feeling, they're like, stop asking how you're here. Like, you did the work.
Yeah.
You're here because you should be here. Like, you deserve to be here. And so I think that fast forwarding to the Rising Entrepreneur of the Year award, there were so many other things that I felt like I went hard for, you know, as far as like, okay, y'all, the vote is out. You got to vote this many times. All right. You know, and I never incentivize people to vote because it's illegal for one in most situations. Right. But I'm just like, there was so much going on with this program launch that I was like, child, I'm going to send you this one-time thing and I'm going to send you a reminder. That's all I got. Like, my mom posted on Facebook. I think my dad shared a post that I made. And I was like, I ain't got nothing else for you. Like, it was just like,
yes,
I was honored to be nominated. And people say that, oh, such an honor. I was genuinely honored to be nominated. And I was like, go with God, you know? And that day had been so hard. Our babysitter canceled. It was raining. My boys had been fighting all day long. And, you know, at one point I was like, I'm just not gonna go. I'm gonna just, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna go. I don't know. Later. Yeah. I just was like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm tired. This place is an hour and a half because of the rain. Like, my husband, he ended up having to work late, so we weren't able to ride together. It was just all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was the first award they called. And like I said, I was like, that's why I said that. I was like, they called my name. Because after going to so many things, competing in so many competitions where you're expecting to hear your name and you don't, right? And not expecting to hear your name because you feel like you're better than the other person, but just because you like, no, I did my stuff. Like, I did that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to not hear your name once.
Yeah.
To hear your name, it was like,
yeah.
It was so fast. And I remember my mom being like she came with me and then they even had our faces on the screen. And that was something I had been to the event last year and they hadn't done that. So that was like new, like seeing my face. And I was just like,
it's real.
Oh, yeah. And I remember I had a coat and I had it over my arms because it was so cold in the venue. And I was like, should I take this down in case they say my name? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking too deep into this. And then they said my name and I was like, yes, let me get this coat off of me and go up here and get my award, you know? And my husband literally walked in as they were saying my name. So it just was... It was a blessing and it was affirming. And that's something that I told the audience. I was like, I know we don't do things as entrepreneurs to be validated by other people. We believe in our idea enough to bet on ourselves and to be crazy enough to invest our own money into it and invest our time, right? I said, but it is affirming to be like, okay, so y'all see this too, because I really am trying out here. I'm trying really hard. And so just to know that you guys see that I'm trying is like, Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I know they all resonated and appreciated that because, yes, girl, yes. I love that. Well, yeah, congratulations again on that because you have won this award. And so what were the gifts? Just was it one gift or was it like a layered amount of opportunities that you received?
No, it really was just the recognition, you know, and I can't lie. It was kind of like the Grinch moment when he was like, and the child mentioned a check. Like, let me find out that there is a cash prize with this too. There was not a cash prize. I was ready for it.
You read my hand.
Make that direct deposit. I was like, great. Thank you so much.
Did you forget to tell me something?
Right.
But then you did win something. I remember seeing something that you spoke about that I didn't know was a possibility. You were excited one day because you were able to get some office space that you, I don't know, was it gifted to you or how did that
Yes, I got it for free.
Oh,
I have a free office. Yep, 6 months
wow.
into an office space that's in Arlington, just like 15 minutes from my house. Mm-hmm. And even that was a full circle moment because I had a office space in Dallas that was not closed. I had it for a few months last year, and then ended up, I was like, okay, I'm not using it. And it was a dedicated desk, so it wasn't even like a private office with a door or anything. But I was happy to have a desk, child. I was happy to have a desk, right? Yeah. And at the end of last year, there was this competition. It's a Small Business Saturday competition, and they had people apply. And I told people, I said, baby, the deadline had passed, but the application was still up. And I was like, I know how to take a button down. So y'all should have taken this link down. I'm about to apply. And so I applied, and I remember just that week, I had been telling my husband, I was like, if I could just have a space, and I'm talking about for our home, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I just want a space with a door, because even in our current house, we have a loft for our bedroom. So even if our door's closed, if downstairs is loud, I can still hear it, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, if I could just have a door. And then the woman called, the community manager called, and she was like, yeah, you'll get 6 months of office space. It's a private office with a door. She said with a door. And I was like, okay, that's for me. That was the Lord. Yes, because private office implies with a door. But God was like, I just need you to know I heard you. And the thing I kept, because baby, when I told you, I was telling that story so many times, because I was like, I need y'all to know about the Lord. I need you. Do you know about the Lord? Do you know about him? Right? I kept telling people, I said, I hadn't been praying and fasting and like on my face before the Lord about an office with a door. I'm just talking to my husband, and the Lord was ear hustling. Like, oh, okay. She said she wanted a door. Yeah. And then had this person say that, not knowing that was something I had just said, and so that's another thing that has given me so much peace, because I'm like, Lord, at least for me, I can't say things rarely come in the form of like monetary things, but more often than not, it's opportunities and investments and free office spaces. Like I was just like, God, I wouldn't even know to ask for a free. I didn't even know that was on the table to ask for.
That was my
right
point. Right. Wonderful.
I'm like, and the amount that I would have gotten from a grant, well, this about $5,000 worth right here. So I'll take this.
Thank you for the peace. Thank you.
Exactly. For the quiet, and me actually being able to have a place to record stuff, and my children aren't in the background.
I know. I love it. Well, I tell you what, I know that somebody out there is interested in reaching out to you. And so I would love it if you would share how you can be contacted so that they can, and we'll put it in the show notes as well, but just let them know how they can reach out to you, and, what can they expect when they call or reach out?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, brandsbybrie.com. You can find out all about the Profitable Products program. We have Brands by Brie Academy, which is our self-paced option. And people are just kind of like, girl, I'm just trying to dip my toe in entrepreneurship yet. I don't know if I want to jump all the way in. And then, yes, if people need to get on what I call my clarity calls with me, just to figure out maybe they're like, oh, maybe I'm debating the program or the academy, which one's the best fit. And when you click the discovery call or clarity call button on my website, it will show you an option. It'll have like different times and dates that you can pick. We'll jump on a call for about 30 to 45 minutes. I really interview my potential clients and just ask them, like, what season of life are you in? What is your objective? What's the time frame you're giving yourself to achieve these specific things? And then that allows me to make an informed decision on which one of our programs will be best fit for what they need. Because I tell people as well, though I've been very intentional about creating experiences that can work for a variety of people, I'm still not a one-size-fits-all person of like, girl, I don't know, just get in there. It should work. No, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, because I also want you to have success. And I think that that's something that sometimes we as business owners fail to see. Like, there are a lot of cutthroat people out here who like, well, you paid your money, and if you ain't get the results, that's on you. I'm like, did you do your due diligence though to make sure they were even a good candidate? Is this a good time for them? Like, if you know that this person is in the process of moving, this is probably not a good time for them to be doing like a group coaching program, because they don't even have Wi-Fi yet. They haven't transferred over to Wi-Fi. So, just simple stuff like that. Simple stuff.
I love it. Well, that definitely makes it personable, and I know everybody can appreciate that. And then, so, of all of the things that you're doing and that you've done, how important is it for your foundation to be rooted in faith? Because everything you've said has been about, well, I had the conversation with the Lord. I spent time doing this. And maybe, I don't know if you found a devotion that you could share with us, in one of your books, but just, what does that mean to you? The fact that you've been able to do all of this because of him, not by yourself. But what does that mean to you?
That's such a good question. I really think of the scripture that says, not by power, not by might, but by my Holy Spirit. And even this morning, there's a community that I'm in, and we were talking about 1 Corinthians 15:10, where Paul says, by the grace of God, I am what I am. I think that's kind of, that's the thread that ties everything together. Because if you look on paper, I shouldn't be able to do any things that I'm doing. The fact that I became an entrepreneur straight out of college, the fact that I had 24 clients within a year of business, because I have, again, a partnership with an accelerator incubator program in New Orleans. The path has been very divine, and I know that it's not because of me. And I talk to God about that all the time. I'm like, God, are there things I desire? Yes. Do we want to purchase a home? Yes. Do I want to pay off these student loans? Because I was holding out for the loan, forgetting it didn't come through. I was holding out for that. Do we want to do that? Yes. But more than that, or at least definitely equal to, because let's not lie, sometimes we I don't know if it's more than. But as much as I want those things, I also want people to understand what is possible when you involve God in the process. And I say that with my marriage. I say that with my parenting. Marriage is work. Parenting is hard. It will kick your behind. And the fact that we show up and do it every day, you go to bed crying because of something your child did, and you wake up the next morning and you love on them and you make them breakfast and you make sure that they have the things that they need. And so I think for me, faith is that foundation, just because I literally don't know any other way to be. I have not found another method, anything that works more than being all right, God, so what you think about this? This is what because even before I launched this program, I didn't give God an ultimatum, but I was kind of listen, we have tried a lot of stuff. And so if I'm about to be played, we don't even have to nobody knows about this right now, but you and me and my coach. So if you want to change it up, or you just want to shut this whole thing, speak now, please, or forever hold your peace. And he was like, go ahead, girl. And I was like, okay, so that's so if you're saying go ahead, I'm thinking that means, and he's like, I know what it means. Go ahead. And I just feel again, it's this theme that's been coming up a lot for me this year. It's choice. Choosing to believe this will be successful. Choosing to believe I'm going to be a fantastic parent. Choosing to believe I'm going to have a fantastic marriage, not because of outward circumstances, but because I make it that way, right? Our pastor always says, the grass is greener where you water it. And so when I've chosen that and stopped looking, and I talked to my son about this, I'm like, baby, if you're always looking to, what are we about to do after this? Are we about to? I said, you're gonna what if, what's next your whole life away. And I said, and I know you're only 6, and you're like, girl, here she goes, talking about being present and contentment. She's been telling me this since I was 2 and half. Yeah. But I feel it's just so important, because I think that the world does view life that way, of the next achievement, the next award, the next whatever. And I've been very intentional about celebrating the present, celebrating having a clean house at the end of the day, because that don't happen every night, child, right? Celebrating a full fridge, celebrating the ability to eat and not be sick, celebrating the fact that if we get an unexpected bill in the mail that we can pay it. Like, those are the things that I've been leaning into. And so, I know you asked about books. Obviously, I do have my books. I got three out of the four. I got them right here. The faith devotional is great if you're just in a season of doubt, honestly. If you like, I know God said it's gonna work, but is it really gonna work? I'm not sure, right? And the Black Girls Guides Living on Purpose, either the teen version or the one for women, it's really great if you're in a season of, I would say, confusion. Because you're like, there's so much I could do, but what should I do, right? And spoiler alert, and this is something I have learned over time, it's actually not just one path. Like, me thinking that a purpose-driven life was this line had me bound for a really long time, because it kept me, I'm talking about making choices and deciding, it kept me from deciding, because I was like, well, God, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then just waiting for like a lightning strike or something like that. And something that he told me either last year or the year before, he said, you are a parent, right? And I'm like, yep. And he's like, and do you feel like you've instilled enough knowledge and wisdom into your sons that if you presented them with choices, that they could choose the right thing? And I was like, yes, sir. And he said, that's how it is with you. He said, when your children are small, when they're babies, you don't really be giving them options. You don't be like, all right, honey, what you want to wear to school? What you want? This what you're wearing. You can't even talk yet. You don't even know. You can't even, babies can't even see color. So I can't be like, well, which one do you like better? Well, the first color you recognize is yellow. So if it ain't yellow, you don't even see that right now. You know what I mean? So our choices are limited.
Yeah.
The younger we are. And as our children grow, we expand their choices. We're like, okay, what would you like for dinner? It's like a question. My husband, he's an excellent cook. And, I don't even know when it started, but Fridays, he'll ask the boys, because he kind of takes over cooking on the weekends. He'd be like, all right, what y'all want to eat this weekend? And they tell him, and he will typically make what they say. But there was a time, baby, we not asking, this is what we're eating, right? And so God just showed me, he's like, you keep being like, well, which one is it? And he's like, I'm giving you the option.
Yeah.
You choose. I've instilled the principles that honor me. I've instilled our family values, right? The family of the body of believers. And so I know you're not going to choose something that goes against those values. And I need you to know that you're not going to choose something that goes against those values.
That's good. That is real good. When you've learned that and you can apply that, and then that helps you to get off the fence and make the decision that, well, I believe this will honor God based on what I've learned. And so what you do is you take that step and find out, right? And if you keep on stepping, then, well, this must be the right direction.
Exactly. And I'm sure you've probably heard me say this on social. Like, I tell people, your GPS doesn't give you directions when you're still. If you type in an address on your phone, if I pull up my phone right now and I type in an address and I click start, until I start moving, it's not going to say nothing.
It sure won't.
Because it's like, it's trying to figure out where you are, It's trying to locate you. Yeah. And so with God, we'd be like, where should I go? And he's like, I can't even see you right. You're not moving. Like, I can't tell you go left or right because you're just still. Like, that's, and I think our desire, especially for our overachievers and our type A personalities, we want to make the right step the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I just want it to be perfect from jump.
No mistakes.
And so, right? And so we don't give ourselves the grace to go in the wrong direction and get rerouted, because then in our mind, we're like, oh, I wasted this time and I could have, if I knew this was the right path. God's like, girl,
it's all right.
Calm down. Because maybe, yes, this was a detour, but maybe you met somebody along the detour. Or
But I know
maybe
how to
now
get
this
you
is a part
back,
of your
huh?
testimony. Yes,
Yeah.
that you get to share with somebody. Like,
Right. So
and I know we're coming up on time, but I feel led to kind of end with this. Last year when we had our second miscarriage, it was really hard. Because I was like, Lord, I gave you the one. All right. I bounced back, whatever. Like, two seems excessive. And to back, I was like, that seems excessive to me.
Yeah.
And something I realized, I said, you know what? When the Lord expands our family, because I felt before, I'm like, this is not it. Our three, we love them. We're so grateful for them. Our three are not it, right? I said, how much more of a miracle would it be to have experienced two losses back to back and then have a full-term pregnancy? Is that more miraculous, or is you just popped up and you pregnant again and people being like, oh girl, y'all got too much free time? Which one of these is going to give more of God's glory, right? Because nobody was like, the more and more we had, it was kind of like, okay, y'all are being fruitful and multiplying.
That's
Good
what the Lord said to
job.
do, huh?
Right. But I'm like, okay, Lord,
Yeah.
this is positioning us for more people to see your glory, because not only will they see a full-term pregnancy, but they will see, man, y'all didn't have y'all had the faith to not stop. Because and people have told me that. They like, oh girl, I would have been done after the first miscarriage. Because I'm like, okay, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, but what is your spirit saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll allow our fears to drown. And God is so good. That's what I'm going to end with. Because I know you said you wanted me to read something. There is a quote in here where I talk about letting fear drown your faith. Yeah. So this is, the way this is, it's 21 days, right? So this is day 4, and it's titled Don't Doubt. And the scripture is Matthew 14:31. And it says, immediately Jesus reached out his hand, caught hold of him, and said to him, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Matthew 14:31. It says, the irony of Matthew 14:31 is striking. 2 verses prior, Jesus tells Peter to climb out of a boat, and Peter becomes the only man other than Jesus himself to walk on water. Then Peter shifts his attention. Instead of keeping his eyes on Jesus, he starts to look around at his circumstances. It says, when he saw the strength of the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. Matthew 14:30. I said, can you identify with this sense of panic? I know that I can. I left the comfort of being a newlywed with a full-time job and few responsibilities to become a wife and a mom with a calling I was not sure would pay me yet. Perhaps you too have left a well-paying job to pursue a God-given calling, and now you're being hit with unexpected financial burdens. Maybe you moved to a new town and the first few weeks were exciting, but now you're realizing you don't know anybody. You may even be in the midst of expanding your family. Initially, you felt prepared, but now as you think of all the change this will bring, you're second-guessing your decision. Whatever your storm or circumstances may be, you've taken your eyes off of God and you're starting to sink back into those old habits, back into depression and fear, back into doubt and disbelief. Whenever we are met with uncertainty, we have two choices. We can focus on the Father, or we can focus on our fears. Focusing on our fears will keep us frozen and ill-equipped to take on our next assignment, while focusing on the Father is how we experience the peace that surpasses all understanding. Even when it seems like the waves are crashing around us, God is still working all things together for our good and His glory. So if He's calling you to climb out of the boat, rest assured He'll be right alongside you to keep you from sinking. Trade your doubt for determination, and we'll all bypass the irony.
I love that. Beautiful. And yeah, that does speak to pretty much everything that we want to do in life when it comes to making decisions about where we think God may want us to go, where we think we might want to go. It really does require, like you said before, in actually moving, taking a step and figuring out if this is the right direction or not. And He will guide us along the way to make sure that, even if we get wet, even if we kind of sink a little bit.
Right.
He's going to pull us back up and we'll be okay. We'll make it back in the boat, right? So
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And so, of course, everyone, this is Bree and Brands by Bree. And I'm just absolutely proud of you. You know, I've seen you grow. So I feel like you're just another one of my nieces that I've just been able to watch blossom. And so, you know, I really do pray the absolute best as you continue to move forward and other people get to experience what you can bring to the table and allow them to experience as well. And so any final words or last thoughts that we want to share? We've covered everything.
I would just say, don't be afraid to do things messy. And I think, you know, I've kind of said that without saying that a lot on today's episode. But if you're waiting for things to be perfect before you make a move, you're not going to make a move. And for me, a saying that I have that I've said since I was a teenager is it's better to live a life of oh wells than what ifs, right? Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, I wonder if I would have, what it would have happened if, I wonder if I, you know, I want to be like, girl, you tried that. It did not work. Oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, I want to do that. And so even with the failures and me looking at God like, are you about to play me again? Just tell me now if you're going to play it with me. I just want to know. Like, just give me a heads up. Yeah. I'm grateful for the risks that I've taken because they've placed me where I'm at now, right? And the risks I take today will position me where I'll be in the future. And I love something that I heard a mentor say. You know, she was like, make choices today that future you will thank you for. And so if we live our life that way, even with small stuff of ordering your groceries ahead of time, right? Or like meal prepping for the week, right? Or laying out your clothes the night before. Like these small things that future you will be thankful for really do make such a difference. And if that is starting the business or finally writing the book or starting the podcast, right? Like make choices that future you will thank you for and understand that those choices are probably going to look really, really messy when you're first making them.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I do know that, you know, you've gone through a lot of things for not just yourself, but for all of us, for everybody to glean, you know, from what you've learned and to be better at the steps that we might take because you've already taken those steps. And so how do you feel about yourself from the early Bree, the little Bree to the Bree of today? And who knows who's coming in the future?
Yeah, I'm really proud of her. I think that, I mean, in my book, I talk about the fact I didn't think I would live past 16 because it just I didn't really have the desire, honestly, to live past 16. I was like, life is very terrible and I'm going to just check out, you know? But my mom would always tell me, she's like, Bree, God has such big plans for you. She was like, I wish I could look into the future for you and tell you what's going to happen so you have something to hold out for. She said, but I just feel that. I feel like he has big plans for you. And so I think about what Romans 5 says, like, who hopes for the thing that they see? Like, if you hope for what you see, it's not hope. Yeah. And so there was always this glimmer of hope, like, well, what if she's on to something? Like, what if there really is this big future, right? And I don't, even with all the amazing things that have happened, even now I'm like, oh baby, this is just the surface. Y'all ain't really seen nothing yet. This is just the warm up. One of my friends said last year's workout is this year's warm up. I'm like, baby, this is just the warm up. We just getting started out here. And that's genuinely how I feel. But all the things that I have gone through have built up my stamina and my endurance so that when more comes at a faster pace, I can actually keep up with it.
Perfect. I love it. All right, everyone. Well, we have been really inspired today, and I do appreciate you being here. And we definitely have to do a follow-up because we got to keep up with you now and see just what is coming in the future. And I know it's going to be fantastic. So, everybody, this is Meaningful Conversations, your place for inspiration, motivation, and impact. I'm Singinlisa, and until the next time, do not stop shining because there is a bright light in you that everybody needs to see. And so until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with somebody who needs to get started with their life and their business, and they can do it all. It definitely deserves to be attempted, and you need a system, right? So, and they can contact Bree for that. So until next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you at the next conversation.